The Bel Air's back and ready for a new rear end, so keep yours planted.
Today on Horsepower TV, we're bringing back our Bel Air Bracket Racer for a new 9-inch rear end, along with heavy-duty billet control arms and high-performance drag shocks. We'll have a quick tech on the best way to start up your street machine and visit a California car collection representing over 60 years of high-performance history. So hang on for Horsepower TV. Hi, welcome to Horsepower TV and more of our Bel Air Bracket Racer build-up. We got a whole passel of parts for a White Lightning here today in the shop, but first, what do you say we take a look at what we've done so far on this project? We took a GM Performance Parts 502 short block, added Edelbrock heads and induction, plus a Comp Cam's roller setup. Then backed it up with a 4L80E overdrive automatic from Jet Performance. Finally, we installed a Mallory ignition, a Griffin radiator, and a B&M shifter.
Since we're adding all that power and we plan to bracket race our Bel Air, well, we're going to need a more substantial rear end. Now, that thing originally came with a 12-bolt under it, but somewhere it got swapped out for a weaker 10-bolt. So we called our friends at Curry Enterprises and they sent us this new rear end using their 9+ race carrier. Now the housing itself is the stock width and it uses the original GM bracket, so it's a direct bolt-in. The center section, however, uses a 350 gear with a torque sensing limited slip. And of course, we finished the package off by ordering a set of their 31 spline axles and hit them drilled for a Chevy bolt pattern.
Well, we got the Bel Air supported on jack stands for safety. Got the wheels off, so we can get started here by removing the shocks. Now that I got the rear end supported on this jack, I can start removing the rubber brake hose. The panhard bar is next. Finally, we can unbolt the lower control arms at the forward attaching points.
All right, that ought to be low enough to clear.
Yeah, let's get it on out of the way.
Yeah, you can start setting up that other rear end.
Now, before we bolt that new rear end in place, we're going to install a set of control arms to help keep it properly located. We got these from Metco, and they're made from solid billet aluminum for strength and lightweight. Now, they use urethane bushings with metal sleeves to help minimize deflection. Now, the uppers are adjustable to get the best bite at the track, and this narrow design allows the use of large diameter exhaust pipes.
Well, we got lucky. The brake lines transferred perfectly from the old rear end to the new one. Now, once we get it bolted up in place, all we got to do is reconnect this hose and bleed the brakes.
That's going to save a lot of time, and well, I guess I'm right on time with these control arms. Got some hardware?
Yeah, right here.
All right, here we go. Thanks. Now, while I've got easy access to the filler plug, I'm going to go ahead and top off our rear end with gear lube. Now, what we're using here is Royal Purple Synthetic. It's a multi-viscosity lube. It's got a limited slip additive already blended in. Once we're done here, we can get this thing back on the jack.
Since we're setting up our suspension for the drags, we went ahead and ordered a full set of these 3-way adjustable shocks from Competition Engineering. Now, they're going to allow us to fine-tune our suspension for the best traction. To adjust them, all you do is compress the shock, then match up the indexing mark here on the shaft and turn the shaft until it lines up with the appropriate marks on the body.
Now, over the years, you've heard drag racers refer to 90-10, 80-20, even 50-50 shock settings. Well, that first number refers to shock compression. The second number is shock extension. A 90-10 front setting requires only 10% of the force to extend the shock, so the front end lifts quickly and transfers weight immediately.
Yeah, but it takes 90% of the force to compress the shock, so the front end's going to settle slowly and extend the amount of weight transfer for a longer period of time. Now, if you've got a lightweight car or the track has plenty of bite, well, you might want to try an 80-20 setting or probably even a 60-40.
Of course, the rears are just the opposite. Generally, you want stiffer compression back here to help you plant the rear tires, but hey, enough shock talk. Let's get back to work.
Well, with the rear end in place and the vehicle at normal ride height, we can go ahead and measure for our drive shaft and get it ordered from our friends at the Driveline shop in Springfield, Missouri. Now, what you want to do is measure from the back of the tail shaft housing to the center line of the pinion yoke. It looks like we got about 61 inches there. Now, we also want to tell them what kind of transmission that we're using so they can include the appropriate slip yoke and the type of pinion yoke that we've got back here. Now, this one happens to be a heavy-duty 1350 series.
Well, it's my opinion that we should take a break now so my partner can rest his rear end. Keep yours in place, though. We'll be back with more of our build-up right after this. Later in the show, a California car collection and the high-performance family that made it possible. Hey, welcome back to the shop and more of our build-up on Chuck's Bel Air Bracket Racer. Well, so far today, we got our 9-inch rear end bolted up along with new shocks and rear control arms. Now we got to tackle another issue, and that's how to get more fuel to that 502 big block we dropped in recently.
Well, one thing's for certain, a mechanical fuel pump isn't going to be part of the program since the 502 just doesn't have a place to mount it. So instead what we're going to use is this Mallory high-performance electric fuel pump. Now it's got a fully machined housing that contains a G-rotor pump assembly for constant, stable pressure, and of course the oversized inlet and outlet make for unrestricted flow. It also comes with this matching fuel pressure regulator.
Well, anytime you're flowing that much fuel, you increase the possibility of pushing debris into your system. So, to keep your floats from sticking or your jets from clogging, you also need a high-flow filter like this one we got from Mallory. Now, its machined aluminum housing features dual inlets and outlets so you can feed a multi-carb setup. Let's check this out. It uses a replaceable filter element to help you maintain your system's efficiency.
Now, when you're plumbing your fuel system, you want to go ahead and install a fuel filter between the tank and the fuel pump.
Yep, and I got this one all ready for you here.
Oh, great, good timing. Now, that way you're going to keep the trash out of your pump and reduce the possibility of any damage. Now, we also mounted the pump close to the fuel tank because an electrical pump pushes the fuel a whole lot better than it pulls it. Now, we're going to go ahead and mount the fuel filter right up here where it'll be out of the way. Well, now that we've got the pump and the filter mounted, we can go ahead and start plumbing the system using some AN fittings, some stainless line, a barb fitting, and just a little bit of 3/8 rubber hose.
We'll finish plumbing the fuel system using this 1/2-inch aluminum line, and well, since we plan on mounting the battery in the trunk, we'll route this battery cable along with it and secure them both with zip ties. Of course, we'll keep it away from exhaust heat, moving suspension parts, and the drive shaft. And well, here's a little tip for you. If you cap the fuel line like this, you'll keep debris out while you're routing it.
You know, racers have been mounting their batteries in the trunk for years, and for good reason. The extra weight over that right rear tire helps plant the power, and believe me, this Holley Annihilator race cell has got some extra weight to it. Of course, it's also got 800 cold cranking amps, more than enough to spin over the biggest big block. Now, we're going to hold it in place using their billet aluminum hold-down bracket, and I think that right about there is a good place for it. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark the holes for the mounting bolts. While I'm at it, I'm going to drill a couple more to drag those cables through.
While Chuck's handling the battery back there, I'm going to finish plumbing the fuel system by installing this fuel regulator here in a hole that was already in the inner fender. Now, once I get this nut started, we can cut this fuel line to the proper length. After it's cut, we slip on a tube coupling, followed by this crush sleeve. Then double flare to the end of the tube. Then we connect it to the AN adapter here on the fuel regulator. Now, coming out of the regulator to the carb, we follow pretty much the same procedure, except here we're using steel braided line because hard line would crack with all that engine vibration and movement.
Well, speaking of movement, we're going to want to move that old Bel Air off the starting line. It'd be kind of tough with regular street tires. So we ordered a set of these DOT legal ET street slicks from Mickey Thompson. Now, these are 281150s. They'll fill up those wheel wells and give us a substantial footprint on the track.
Well, up front, we're using their Sportsman rubber measuring 28.750. Now, this lighter weight and taller diameter is going to give us less rolling resistance. And for a classic nostalgic racer look, well, we mounted them on these American Torque Thrust wheels. 15 by 6s up front, 15 by 8.5s in the rear.
Hey man, I gotta tell you, old White Lightning's looking pretty good, and it won't be long before we're ready to make some thunder with it.
Well, I hate to rain on your parade, but it's time for us to put the tools up for a while, take a break, and hey, check this out.
It's good having them and looking at them, but you still want to go out and drive them and enjoy them.
They make the parts that make enthusiasts go fast. Meet the Edelbrock Fun Team coming up next.
Horsepower Happenings is brought to you by WyoTech, the nation's premier technical training school.
Well, this week, how about a sneak peek at a unique car collection here in Southern California? It's a show place that celebrates over 60 years of high-performance history.
Great tribute to my grandfather and my father and what they've done and the company that they've built from just an idea.
Vic Edelbrock Sr. practically grew up with a wrench in one hand and a steering wheel in the other. And although he broke racing records in his famed number 27 midget, he had an even greater passion for developing ways to make more power. A passion that would eventually help change the way we felt about our cars. When World War II ended, a new supercharged love of the automobile was beginning, along with the need for speed parts to make cars go faster. Vic Sr. was a pioneer in the high-performance aftermarket and opened his first speed shop in 1949. By then, a younger Edelbrock was growing up in the business, Vic Jr., who took the company's reins after his father's untimely death in 1962. Today, the family business has grown from that little speed shop to a publicly traded, worldwide leader in the design and development of high-quality, high-performance parts. In a way, this unique collection called Vic's Garage symbolizes a family success story and an ongoing passion for building bridges to better performance.
The idea that if you work hard enough, you can do it. I think that's an important thing. And it's something that we try to reinforce in our own families every day.
That will really kick in the fact of the history of the company, the history of the industry and how it started in the early days, and educate, especially the young people that really don't know where all this came from.
Vic's Garage has everything from a replica of Vic Jr.'s first Triumph motorcycle to one of Vic Sr.'s first Roadsters. It should come as no surprise that most cars are Edelbrock red and made to go faster than stock.
80 Corvette and with a Donovan aluminum engine in it and nitrous.
Some vehicles are famous for breaking speed records, like this SoCal car that was king of the salt flats in the 50s. This recently acquired Galaxy of Junior Johnson's caused quite a stir at NASCAR in the mid-60s.
This Galaxy has got more tricks and cheating in it than you ever want to see. In fact, it was a car that caused the templates to be made. NASCAR finally realized they had to do that after they saw this car.
Now, some of the cars you might find here on any given day aren't here because they're headed to the track. The Edelbrocks not only believe in driving these things, they believe in racing them. The whole Edelbrock family believes in walking the walk and living the high-performance lifestyle. You'll find the family fun team at vintage car racing events everywhere. Vic behind the wheel of his rare 59 Costin-bodied Lister. Daughters Cammie and Christy driving their vintage 67 Shelby Mustangs. Vic's wife Nancy's the official timekeeper and crew manager.
It's good having them and looking at them, but you still want to go out and drive them and enjoy them.
Vic's Garage may be the showplace of the new corporate headquarters edition, but on the other side, as Cammie shows us, there's a massive modern new warehouse.
This warehouse has 35-foot high ceilings, and we can go 6 pallets. We're 6 pallets high right now, and we can go an additional 7th row if we want to expand in the future, which with the way we're going these days, it might happen soon.
With technology that looks straight out of Star Trek, this warehouse is the only way to keep pace with the growing demand for the company's products. A list that keeps growing with the Edelbrock story. A story that's never ending, never finished, just like the new showplace called Vic's Garage.
I had a painting instructor once who told me that a painting is never finished because if you finish it, then it's overdone. So I'd like to say that this is a work in progress.
Vic's Garage, a work in progress, celebrating the first family of high performance.
Hey, let's face it, the reason many of us spend a lot of our money and most of our time working on our cars is so that we can be seen at our local cruise spot on a Saturday night. But it's hard to go cruising if you can't crank your motor. Now, you Chevy guys know exactly what I'm talking about, especially if you've got a big block with high compression and a set of headers. Now, the problem stems from a heatsink condition in the starter. Now, here's some things that you can do to help alleviate that problem. First, make sure that your ignition is set to factory specs. And I'm not talking about just your initial timing, I'm also talking about your mechanical and advance. Now, too much timing is going to cause your engine to kick back against the starter and make it difficult to turn over. Also, make sure you have a high torque starter to help overcome the high compression in big cubes. Now, you can identify it by this spacer here at the back of the solenoid. Now that spacer is required because the starter uses a longer armature and more windings. By the way, this is what a standard starter looks like. Of course, if you've already got a high torque starter, then the heatsink problem that I told you about earlier can be helped out tremendously with a heat shield like this one from Moroso. Now, it's made from aluminum and installs right on the starter like that to keep it away from exhaust heat. Of course, mini starters have become popular too, not only because of their lightweight, but their diminutive size also keeps them further away from your headers. Well, needless to say, you also want to make sure that you have good grounds, no corrosion on your battery terminals, and that your battery cables are of adequate size. Well, I hope these tips have been adequate enough to keep you cranking, cruising, and looking good on Saturday night. Well, here's some good-looking hot parts coming up for you next.
Horsepower TV's Hot Parts, a close-up look at the latest in high-performance hardware.
Well, here's the latest version of Holley's popular modular carburetor. It's their Street Avenger, and they claim it's the most trouble-free carb ever, with everything from easily adjustable vacuum secondary and blow-proof power valve to range-restricted float adjustment and electric choke. Of course, each one comes with close limit jetting and CFM ratings that range from 570 to 870. Prices start at $350.
Now, to keep your Holley carb jets organized, how about this Billet Pro jet holder from DSS Performance Products? Now, it'll hold 144 jets, and its layout allows you to arrange them for easy access. Of course, if you've got access to an extra $40, hey, you can get one of these.
Of course, you can get more power from your engine with Edelbrock's nitrous system. Kits are available for carburetors from 50 to 250 horsepower and for popular fuel injection applications from 50 to 120.
Now, the aluminum spray plate is fully machined and works with a pair of high-flow solenoids to introduce the giggle gas. Now, the kit also includes a 10-pound bottle, stainless steel lines, and all the hardware that you need to install the kit. Of course, you're going to have to squeeze your wallet a little bit. Prices start at $350.
Well, we're about out of gas for today, but we have time to tell you about next week's show, and here's a look. Will it be the Mopar, the Ford, or the Chevy? 3 muscle cars loaded with big block crate motors from the Big Three. It's a one-of-a-kind crate motor challenge to see who makes the most power. Plus, we'll take you to a school in Las Vegas where the curriculum is driving 140 miles an hour in an open-wheel champ car. And remember, high-performance fun is what this show is all about.
For information about the products used in today's show and more, check us out online at horsepowertv.com. Horsepower TV is an RTM production.